Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guruneva Param Brahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Bandhushcha Sakha Tvameva Nidyadravinam Tvameva Sarvam Namadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Namadeva Deva. Jai. Om Bhadram Karnevi Shriyama Deva Bhadram Pashe Makshabhirya Jatra Stirai Rangai Stushtuβagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayu Swasti na Indro Vridhashvavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspati dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So where are we in our text?
Okay.
Chapter 1, Karika 14.
Chapter 1, Karika 14. Do you have a copy of it?
Yeah.
What page do you have, Mark?
74.
If you got it, you're so well prepared.
Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Swapna Nidra Yuta Vadyam Prajnastva Swapna Nidraya Nanidram Naiva Cha Swapnam Turye Pashyanti Nishchita. Vishva and Taijasa, the former two, are associated with the conditions of dream and sleep. Prajna is the state without dream. Those who have known the truth do not see either sleep or dream in Turiya.
Yes. So the mind itself cycles in front of the ground of being. It goes through waking, dream, and deep sleep. So Vishwa is the awareness of the phenomenal world. He's also called this Vaishwanara, Vishwanara, not as a person. So the person who sees the waking state world. There's an ego there. Me, the waker, as Swamiji used to say. What do we mean by that? So what I did this morning is different than what you did this morning. Did I have breakfast? You do not know, you weren't there. Did you have breakfast? If you did, you were there to know it. So that what we were talking about earlier, Stephen, this individual knower of the waking state reality. Then there's the dreamer, who has essentially the same experience, just confined within my individual mind. I, the dreamer, meaning I am identified with a dream body, which is a locus of perception. Sometimes we have an omnipresent view of a dream, but for most of us, the vast majority is I'm identified with the dream body, and I peep out at a dream world, and there's a dream me a dream ego that sees that dream world, and then I have reactions, thoughts, and feelings to the phenomena that I see in the dream. Tai Jasa, the dreamer. Then there's Prajna, the deep sleeper. Again, Vedanta thunders, you are not unconscious in deep sleep. You are conscious of ignorance, the mind all folded up into its seed form. The best way to understand this is the difference between seeing darkness and being blind. If it were nighttime and all the drapes were shut and it was pitch black, you could not see anything. But if, say, Wendy lit a match, you'd instantly see it. But if you were blind and she lit a match, you couldn't see it. Who here had deep sleep last night? In the morning, you could remember it. Oh, I slept so soundly. Who woke up in the middle of the night and had to go pee? See? That's like lighting the match. If you were unconscious in deep sleep, you wouldn't know that your mind became awake. It's so simple. Look around, see the objects in the room, and close your eyes. You are not blind. You are seeing the back of your eyelids, which occludes your capacity to see any phenomena. So the mind itself is in that deep sleep state. We said in prior verses that this is the cause of the other two states, meaning the mind is in its seed form. So Wendy's a chef. She does not wake up the next day as a computer programmer. There's a continuity. These seeds, we call them vasanas, are there in their potential state. But behind all of that is the illuminator of it all, the ground of being, Turiya, the fourth. So I like to demonstrate, I may have done this. This is like the self here. This other hand is the mind, waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. Now watch carefully. Samadhi. And when the mind returns, it goes, oh my God, there's nobody there. That's what happens. That insight is called pratya vijnana, recognition. It is the highest experience of vipassana. Drish pashyati is the verb to see. The Pali is vipassana. Anybody here done a vipassana meditation retreat? Mm-hmm. Yeah, same word. V, the prefix, is a superlative. So vipassana, you can translate it as profound insight, wisdom. So understand, Turiya is not another mind state. It's the fourth in our series of discussion. In a sense, Turiya is always there. I love to tell this story. I'd been in the ashram about 6 weeks, I think, something like that. I was sitting on my mattress. I had a little cotton mattress on the floor. I was meditating. all of a sudden, all this gold white light. And I was just bathed in ecstasy. Oh, I must have realized the self. So I head on out to the avenues where the fellow who ran this stuff, this guy Ram, I said, I think I've realized the self, Ram. So really, what happened? I was in meditation and had all this gold white light, and I was just bathed in ecstasy. And he said, and what were you doing before that? I was sitting on my bed and I was meditating. And he said, well, who knew that meditation? I did. And when you saw the gold white light and the ecstasy, who knew it? I did. And what are you experiencing right now? Here talking to you. And who's aware of it? I am. So Turiya is the eternal reality. It's always there. It is independent of the movements of the mind. It never changes. Listen carefully. You don't have awareness like you have a nose or toes or a feeling or a thought. You are awareness. Investigate it with a quiet mind turned inward. It does not rise and fall the way the world rises and falls. Stephen and I were talking about impermanence beforehand. You are not impermanent. You are nitya, eternal. Next one.
Anyata grahanata swapno nidra tattvam ajanatah viparyase tayokshine turiyam padamashnute. Dream is the misapprehension of reality, while sleep is the state in which one is in a state of non-apprehension of reality. When the erroneous knowledge in these two states disappears, Turiya is realized.
Yes. So we have two processes that go on. We have the initial non-apprehension of reality, and then the subsequent misapprehension of reality. Of course, Shankara talks about this as snakes and ropes. Snakes and ropes, snakes and ropes. Everything Shankara writes, we're always talking about snakes and ropes. So the idea is person is walking along a path, maybe in the jungle. Shankara was a Malayali in Kerala. There's wonderful jungles in South India. It's lush, very lush. And as he's walking along the path, he sees a snake. Ah! He gets very still, he does not move. And then another person comes up behind him, and Shankara says, don't come any closer. There's a snake here. I'm a goner. But don't you get any closer because we don't want him to bite you as well. Shankara, dear, your eyes are closed. I know, it's too scary. I can't look at it. Shankara, dear, open your eyes. Look. It's not a snake. It's a rope. that someone has left on the jungle path. You're right. So we had a twofold process. First, Shankara had the non-apprehension of the rope. Technical term is avarana shakti or avritti, ignorance. Then there was the subsequent misapprehension. Because he did not apprehend the rope, which was there, he superimposed some idea. This way. When it comes to myself and the world, the same thing happens. First is avidya, ignorance, ajnana, ignorance, the non-apprehension of my essential nature. Then there's the subsequent misapprehension, the projection, which is imagined by the mind. We get this in a microcosmic form at night when we go to sleep. There I am, the waker. I drink my chamomile tea. I may take a hot bath. I crawl into bed. I'm still the waker. Punch my pillow. And then what happens? I fall asleep, which is the non-apprehension of myself as the waker. Pure ignorance. And what does the mind do? Ta-da! The dream state, which has the elements of the triputi, the triple factor. Nowhere, knowing, and known. All created by the mind. Now, Shrinahu, that means listen carefully. The flow of thought and the perception of the phenomenal world in the end is not problematic. Do you see that this is a table? Knowing that you see a table doesn't cause you to suffer. There are only three ideas which are a superimposition, which cause my suffering. The first, jiva bhavana. I think I'm a person. In our scriptures, you'll often see the word ahankara, which is usually translated as ego. But kri is the root to make or to do. So ahamkara means a particular kind of thinking or believing that makes or creates or gives the feeling of an individual self, jiva bhavana. I'm Jim, or Santosh, or Steve. Secondly, I see a phenomenal world of Vishwa. And in it are Vishaya, objects, which are separate from me. I'm over here, they are over there, and they are inherently joy-giving and misery-producing. I love Santosh. When she's problematic. Stephen and Molly, I don't care about. It's not how we usually normally see the world. And what Gaudapada is saying is that isn't real. It's like the snake in the rope. The third element is what we call kartavya. Who knows what kartavya is? Literally obligatory action, but it means jonesing. It means struggling. It means it's not okay the way it is. I'll be happy when. It'll be better if. Give me more, better, different. How am I doing? What do they think of me? What do I have to do to make it okay? Personal sense of self, a world of name and form separate from me that's joy-giving or misery-producing, and struggle. So when I was a little kid, I used to build card castles. Did you ever do that? Take a deck of cards and you put 3 of them on the bottom, and then you like build a huge castle. Anybody did that as a kid? Yes?
Yes.
So all of that card castle is the structure of my stupid, suffering world. But at the base are only 3 playing cards. I think I'm a person, there's a world separate from me, and I'm compelled to make efforts. What happens if you were to take one of those cards away? Whole thing falls down. You don't even have to remove all 3 ideas. Remove just one of them, and the whole thing falls. You can stay with the meditation. Koham, who am I? What's my essential nature? No personal sense of self is real. You can deal with the world. What is this world and how has it come about? It is nothing but mithya, illusion. By tatya, it's false. Or you could deal with the struggler. Today, I surrender. Today, absolute, radical acceptance and surrender. Now, most of us do an integral yoga. We work on all 3. But in fact, they're dependent on each other. Remove just one of them, and the whole mechanism falls. But something remains. Turiya, Brahman, essential nature. Now, there is another kind of superimposition that the scriptures talk about. We talk about snakes and ropes. We talk about mirage waters in the desert. True story. So many, many years ago, we're talking maybe 30 years ago, when I could still see and drive, I had an RX-7. Very hot car. And in the summer, I used to drive down to Southern California and visit my mother, usually in July. And I get on Highway 5 through the Central Valley. And have you driven down Highway 5 in the summer?
Yeah.
It's really hot. And I can remember one trip, I'm driving down Highway 5, and there's agriculture fields on both sides. Summer, it's July. And I'm looking up ahead, and the highway's flooded. And all in the fields on the side. So I'm going about 105. So I slow down and I start creeping along at around 45 or 50. And I'm thinking, my God, there must have been an irrigation pipe that's burst and flooded the highway and flooded all these fields. And, you know, in those sections of Highway 5, there's no off ramps. How the heck am I going to get to Southern California? Because the road's flooded. You know, you don't go driving through flooded water. And as I kept driving, the flood kept receding.
Oh,
And I went, oh, it's a mirage. It wasn't an oasis with palm trees. It was flooded fields in the Central Valley. True story. I just started to laugh. Once I figured out what was there, where did the water go? Oof. It was never there in the first place. First was the non-apprehension of the highway and the fields. And there was the subsequent misapprehension. Heat waves off the highway appeared as water. Now, in our example of the snake and the rope, when you apprehend the rope, the snake is not available for perception. That is like samadhi, the deepest meditation when the mind stops. The individual knower of the world and the phenomenal world are gone. But driving through the Central Valley is like what we call sahaja samadhi, natural or continuous samadhi. In the beginning, in ignorance, my perception was water and my knowledge was water. After I realized what it was, my perception was still water. But my knowledge was heat waves off the highway. Do you see that? So for the woman, for the man of knowledge, when the mind has returned from nirvikalpa samadhi, they know what the world is. There's the old Zen proverb, before enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. After enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. So the jnani, the person of steady wisdom, of knowledge, sees the same world as you and I. But they see it very differently. They know that it's not separate from consciousness. Sarvam kalvidam brahma. All this is verily just the play of consciousness. like a movie, like a hologram, seen but not real. So in the end, there's no need to have a wackadoodle mind state. Leave me alone. I need to go back into samadhi so I don't have to look at this horrible world. Gloom, doom. No, 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 no. All is Brahman. Well, open your eyes. What you're seeing is Brahman. Brahma Satyam. Brahman alone is real. Jagan Mithya. The phenomenal world is illusory. Don't worry. Now, this is not a teaching we give to beginners. If someone comes to you and says, oh, I've been traumatized and my mother is dying of cancer and oh, I'm so frightened about what's happening in the country, we meet them where they are. In Gita, Krishna says, we do not unsettle the minds of the ignorant with the truth. We just consign them to a hell. Oh, don't worry. Nobody ever dies. Nobody's ever born. Get over your cheap self. That's cruel. We don't do that. Oh, I'm so sorry you feel that way. How can I be of support? That must be very difficult. You know the fundamental unreality. You have to be sensitive to where other people are at.
How did you feel when Swamiji died?
Nothing happened.
But you got to stop interacting with him.
No. You know,
that
at
particular
times
way.
here in class when we get really tuned up and it's thunderous with the Shakti and the silence. Have you felt that?
Mhm.
Meet Swamiji. He didn't go anywhere. He's not God. Swamiji's just another name for the sound. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, other people had lots of grief. But, you know, after a couple of years, I learned, you know, I could tell you what he was going to say before he said it. It was a shtick, you know. You know, there's so many ways you can unfold the scripture. You know, he said very early on, if you cannot see who I am, just see me as a mouthpiece of the scriptures. Do not get involved with my personality. So I was never engaged in getting his approval or his attention or being his buddy or anything like that. What the hell for? I was there for the knowledge. And then what I learned to do was understand the deeper meaning of surrender. It has nothing to do with asking the guru to run your life. It has to do with being able to draw the mind, tuned to the guru, who can then show us the awakened state of mind. And say, meet me there. not some city. And he would say, use the guru. Use the guru. Do not to the guru. And I don't even need to be in your presence. I can be halfway around the world. Tune in. So for decades, when I would go see Swamiji, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to what he said. It was very repetitive. I would just tune out, tune in, because he was so empty and so full. I did not grieve. Because he went nowhere. Any thoughts on that?
No, he went nowhere. But that particular iteration is no longer.
Is it? Wasn't real in the first place. To grieve over the loss of his body is like saying, oh, there's his chappals, his sandals. I think I'll go cry about his sandals.
Yeah, I think in that sense,
You have to wait till it's a reality for you.
Yeah.
Don't try to rationalize or figure it out or come up with. Right now, other people's bodies are important to you.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine. And if you have a loss and you're grieving,
yeah, it's important because we're in the world and we're householders, so naturally it's kind of hard at times to separate that.
and that's where your current state of unfoldment is.
Yeah, yeah. You can still understand and know the truth, but still there's that pull.
Whatever. Knock yourself out. In the 11th verse in the second chapter of Gita, Lord Krishna says, you grieve for whom you should not grieve. Though you speak words of wisdom, yeah, what you said is rational. Same thing. What you've said is rational. Then he says, the wise grieve neither for the living nor the dead. Did the Lord lie? Arjuna was not a sannyasi, he was a householder. Now, it takes the whole rest of the Gita to understand why that's a valid teaching. Very good question. Any other thoughts over here?
It's interesting when how to say this. When that scene began to see through what you were just talking about, I have that relationship with my son. He's sick, but this whole thing of seeing that view from that viewpoint, there's part of me that feels like I should have more feeling about the interaction or what's happening. But it's this compassion and love expressed. But it's like for just this, what's here. But the mind says I should feel differently.
The world says people are their bodies.
Right.
When the body gets sick, the person is sick. When the body dies, the person is gone. But think of it this way, when someone dies, they are fine. Being dead doesn't hurt. What are you grieving? My own loss. Selfish pig. Think.
Almost like you're grieving your own self-condition.
Yeah, of course. And the whole world does it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
Or fear, or our own fear of dying, you know? 'Cause-
Well, and then of course the old slogan, the difference between grief and greed is 6 feet.
Mm.
It's a conditioning.
For the Indians, when someone's buried, they bury him 6 feet deep.
Yeah.
So, oh, Aunt Mary. And then after she's gone, what did she leave me? What did she leave me? But you cannot turn off these feelings like a light switch. The shift in our emotional body happens as the result of deep insight, which is rooted in direct experience, not just in intellectual understanding.
It feels like the barrier to entry to reach that point of knowledge takes time and patience and commitment.
Yes. Swamiji always used to say it's an evolution, not a revolution. I like to say the rose bud is not a failure as a bloom. And you can't start pulling the petals on the rosebud. It blooms in its time. And then the corollary to it, which is more beautiful, the first rose of summer or the last? They just bloom in their season. But you hit the key point, being steadfast. Being steadfast. Just keep on keeping on.
I had an interesting experience last year when I lost my grandpa. He was 94 when he passed and lived a full life, but the last last 6 months of his life was pretty challenging for him.
Yeah. Getting there can be a real challenge.
Yeah, yeah,
It isn't being dead that's problematic. It's getting there.
yeah. And the, in the days leading up to his passing, I was there with him, and I was there for the weeks leading up to his passing. And in those weeks, I wanted him to go.
That was your discomfort of his suffering.
Yes. Yes, I wanted the suffering to end.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't, it was hard for you, right, in a way, or?
I felt empathy for him
Mhm.
in the sense that I don't want him to go through it.
But what you do not know is what he really went through.
I don't know. I could feel at times what he was going through.
And
I don't
as
know.
my dear mother always used to say, you gotta die of something. And you're dying, Molly. Right now. All of us are. The only difference is some of us have an expiration date that we know about. The others of us, it's a mystery still. But you're dying.
I think I am at peace with the time of my death. I think I am. And I don't know if that's intellectual or experiential.
You'll
but
find out when you get there.
yeah, yeah.
Stay with today. And thank God in our modern day and age, we have medications to minimize people's physical suffering at least. But no amount of morphine will depress fear if you're not spiritually prepared. All right, we got a little bit sidetracked, but it was a good discussion. Anybody else have anything more on that?
I have a question.
Is that Ashley?
It is.
Please.
So in the realm of talking about death and then Turiya, can you speak any on that? Is that like what our consciousness is after our body dies?
The best way to explain it, this is again not Jim, this is the scriptures. So here I have a mug with cold coffee in it. The mug is like the physical body, which is very temporary. The coffee inside is like what we call the subtle body. It's the body you experience in the dream state. If somebody has astral projection or something like that. So I could theoretically take the coffee in this mug and pour it into another mug. That's all reincarnation is. But you are like the space in the cup. Now, if I break the cup and drink the coffee, what happens to the space in the cup?
It's still there.
I'm going to do a magic trick. Can you see the mug there on the Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's mug space. Pay attention. Wait a minute. Did the space move at all?
No. It's all space.
Is there space in the mug or is the mug in space?
The mug is in space.
Yeah, nothing's happened to space. You are like space. Yoga Vasishtha says we have three spaces. We have physical space, this stuff. We've got mental space. So if you close your eyes and visualize rafting down a river, you've created space in your mind. And we have the space of consciousness itself, which is subtler than the other two and permanent. You go nowhere. Now, the cup is like the physical body. The coffee is like the subtle body. Both the physical body and the subtle body are what we call jada, inert. They have no inherent sentience. You are Baba. You are being itself. But that being goes nowhere. Does that make it a little clearer?
It's just, I think my mind is just wondering like what our experience of consciousness is? Would it be like the deep sleep, sort of like the awareness, but or maybe
No.
would that the no mind?
When the body falls away, for most people, a grosser part of the mind falls away, and then you have a subtle body, sukshma sharira, which will then hang out in a loka, we call it, some vibratory level based on your punya and papa, your good actions and your not so good actions. And then you work out unresolved karmas, and then based on desire, we take birth again in another womb. The physical body is essentially a vehicle, an instrument for the garnering of experience and the satisfaction of desires. And we keep doing that until we finally say, enough of this. What's it all about? Who am I? What is this world? Is there freedom from this funny farm? And then we start on the spiritual path. In the Christian tradition, eternal life, meaning the eternal existence of an individuality. I'm going to go to heaven and I'm going to see Uncle Bill and Aunt Mary. And I'll be with God in Jesus. He'll be on his throne. But for the yogi, moksha or liberation is freedom from birth. It's kind of like if you're a habituated criminal and you keep screwing up and you keep getting thrown in jail. And then you finally say, okay, I can't fight the law. I'm going to stop doing criminal activity. And you no longer need to go to jail. Then you no longer need to worry about getting a criminal attorney and all that kind of business. But you go nowhere. We'll talk more about it. Let's go on with our scripture.
Anadi mayaya sukto yada jiva pravidyate ajam anidram asvapnam advaitam budyate tada. When the individual soul sleeping under the influence of the beginningless Maya is awakened, then it realizes itself in itself the birthless, sleepless, dreamless, and non-dual.
So, what is having a intellect, a buddhi, that's awake? Buddha. That's what the guy's name means. The Buddha means he's awake. Listen carefully. The self doesn't get realized. The self is changeless. Enlightenment or self-realization occurs to the mind. What is my bondage? My bondage is nothing more than the deeply rooted conviction in my mind that I'm bound, meaning I think I'm my body, or my body plus the personality. I have an individual self, which has got issues, and it needs to be fixed or secured or defended. There is no other liberation than the deeply rooted conviction, again in the mind, based on direct experience. Not that I'm now an enlightened person, but I'm not a person. I never was. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. I am that ground of being. I'm that space of pure awareness. All that stuff that I was worried about never touches me. Finally found out where happiness is. Happiness is the mind abiding in my essential nature. Then the mind gives up the tyranny of craving, wanting it different than it is. The mind gives up its compulsion to secure a personal sense of self. Listen carefully. The state of bondage, the state of liberation which occurred in the mind, neither affects the self. Both states, bondage and liberation, occur in the realm of Maya. Well, does that mean enlightenment's not real? From one viewpoint, that's correct. But if you say your enlightenment isn't real, you also have to say your suffering isn't real.
Wow, that's a conundrum.
As long as you are suffering, you might get some value out of work in a spiritual program. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's only the mind that suffers. Pardon me?
It is really something.
So just because it doesn't meet our ideal of the nature of reality, which from the highest viewpoint is true. Sarva Maya, Sarva Ananda, all this is Maya, illusory. All of it's actually this. If that's your direct experience, yes. But if I'm suffering, craving, averring, grieving, there is a way out. In Buddha's Four Noble Truths, the last one, Marga Satya, the truth of the path, answers the question, is there a way to be permanently free from suffering? Not just the incidental freedom, which happens when I satisfy a desire. Most of us, it's work, work, work. I call it 95 cents worth of suffering for a nickel's worth of pleasure. Can I stop the rat race? Oh. Okay, next one.
Prapancho yadi vidyeta nivarteta na samshayah maya matram idam dvaitam advaitam paramartata. If the perceived plurality were real, then certainly it would disappear. This duality that is cognized is a mere illusion, or maya. Non-duality alone is the supreme reality.
So the example I like to use is if you go back to the first Star Wars movie. Did everybody see Star Wars? You did not?
I did.
Oh, okay. So remember the little bullet-shaped robot R2D2? And in the very beginning, he does a hologram. And there's little Princess Leia. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, if someone there seeing the projection of Princess Leia, if she were real, they could get out a knife or a shovel and squish her. But what would happen if you just put your hand right through Princess Leia? Why?
It's not real.
Illusion.
Yes, yes. So what Gaudapada is saying is if the world were real, it could be destroyed. It would cease to exist. And the fact of the matter is, Maya is co-eternal with Brahman. Because it is a hologram. Cannot destroy it. All we can come to do is see it. If you dream you're locked in a jail, to the dreamer, the solution seems to be get out of jail. But what happens when you wake up? Do you have to worry about getting out of the jail of your dream?
No.
So also, take it easy. Let go. And let God. What's that book that's come out? A lot of people are finding value. Drop the rock. It's all going to be okay. I love what Swami Tejamayana used to say. Do you know how to get rid of your worries? Quit worrying. Because all of it is created by the mind. And right now, so many people on the left and on the right are all just wringing their hands about politics. Take it easy. I'm not saying that, you need to ignore what's going on. But the substratum, the bhava, the being, it's okay. Nothing ever touches it. And you are okay.
Swamiji in the commentary here points out the logic that is used in this particular stanza.
Share it with us.
He's essentially saying that the stanza says, in effect, the universe does not exist. If it exists, it would disappear. It does not disappear, therefore it does not exist. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah. Like a hologram. You can't destroy it. So, well, what about when Shiva opens his third eye? Doesn't the world get turned to ashes? What does that mean? This is the Jnana Chakshu, the eye of wisdom. And when Lord Shiva, which is essentially you, when you open that third eye, you no longer see with two eyes, good and evil, right and wrong, just and unjust. I and thou. When you open the third eye, the world is turned to ashes. Doesn't mean it's not perceived, but you see it for what it is. Your physical, phenomenal world that's inherently joy-giving and misery-producing. Oh. The child sees the rainbow. Oh, mommy, let's get in the car and go to the end of the rainbow. I want to find a pot of gold. All right, sweetie. Get in the car and you start driving to the end of the rainbow. What happens?
There.
Hmm?
It's not real. It's not there.
Yeah, it's pretty though. Seen, but not real.
Why is he saying here that if it exists, it would disappear?
Because all phenomenal things disappear eventually. What we know about things that are substantively existent, chairs, cups, bodies, tables, they have prior non-existence, a momentary existence, and subsequent non-existence. The specific names and forms come and go. The universe itself always is.
And that's the reason that it's not real.
That's what Gaudapada has said, yes. Just like Princess Leia, you can't destroy her with the hologram. If you watch a movie and there's somebody on the movie screen with an AK-47, can you shoot the person in the movie to get him to put down their gun? And all you do is tear a hole in the screen. It's not really there. All right, one more, and then we'll quit.
Vikalpo vinivarteta kalpito yadi kenachit upadeshadayam vado gyate dvaitam na vidyate. If anyone has ever imagined or projected the manifold ideas, they might disappear. The explanation is for the purpose of teaching. Duality implied in the explanation ceases to exist when the highest truth is realized.
Yeah. So in the Karmakanda portion of the scriptures, we have all these creation myths. The Judeo-Christian tradition has its own. In the Psalms of David, you are the potter, I am the clay. God is a creator, we live in his creation, and I am a creature. Creature. Vedanta says no. Again, go to the dream state. You are the dreamer. The instrument you use is your own mind. And all the names and forms in the dream are nothing but your mind appearing as imagination, the appearance of images. Infinite does not create the world. It is imagined. Now, the world of God's creation or imagination is inherently neutral. Is the speed of light good or bad, just or unjust? Just is. But you and I, because we're made in the image and likeness of God, as the Hebrew scripture says, doesn't mean God has arms and legs. It means you and I have the capacity to a limited degree to imagine all sorts of things. This person is good, that person is terrible. This is good government, this is terrible government. Aunt Mary's alive, that's good. Uncle Bill is dead, that's bad. These are my superimpositions on an inherently neutral universe. It's a double adhyasa, double superimposition. It's my illusion about a phenomenal world, which is an illusion about reality. All right, what verse are we on for next week?
You're on mantra 8.
We're back to the mantras?
Yeah.
Okay, good place to stop. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.